To have passion in life is everything.
What's your Everest?
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
that 200-inch buck?
They just look so impressive when they're wide.
Especially running away.
Welcome to this week's episode of Eastmans Elevated.
It's like a think tank for outdoor activity.
Sounds exactly like my hunting. Just always thinking about it, always trying to evolve it and make it better.
Here's your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's up, guys? New episode of Eastman's Elevated here. So this week on the podcast, I have on Swagger's own Josh Kinser. So Swagger is just a great company, and they're also the sponsor for today's show. They're just building these next level bipods, and we'll get into it more in the podcast. But I'm just so impressed by these things, and Josh is just a great guy. I met him through the podcast. He lives out of Texas and does a bunch of adventures around his home state of Texas, as well as traveling out west. He does a really good job of getting his family out there and introducing his daughters into hunting, and a really good job of explaining the Swagger bipod and the benefits of it. So we have a really good, authentic conversation on here that goes all the way from scorpions his daughter is playing with by accident to hunting adventures, to talking about the bipods and everything in between. We also, on today's recording, Scott Reekers from Eastmans sits in, so there's three of us. So you guys will enjoy that. Over there at Eastmans, we got that promo code still running. So if you guys aren't subscribers to Eastman's Hunting Journal or Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, they're just a great next level Western hunting magazine. I believe the best magazine out there. Us staff writers just pour our heart and soul into each article we write, trying to give next level public land tactics that'll help you guys out west. We also have our MRS section in there, members research supplement. So they just do a great job of breaking down all the units across the west, and you only get this if you're a member, and give you statistics, give you drawing odds, give you a percentage of successful, just a bunch of information to sort through in there. So the promo code is elevated617. If you punch that in at the Eastman's Hunting Journal website, $20 will get you a subscription for both magazines for the entire year. Then you can also, if you pay for the shipping and handling, they'll throw in a Primos Timberline elk call for you. So a good deal there, and putting out really good products. So let's get this thing rolling. So Josh Kinser, we got Scott Reekers, we got me, Eastman's Elevated. Here we go. Okay, I'm here live with Josh Kinser from Swagger Bipods, and I'm also here with Scott Reekers from Eastman. So, guys, how's it going today?
Going great.
It's going pretty good. Going like crazy here, trying to get everything done. Get ready for the fall and all our preparations for everything else we have going on.
Man, that's it. We're all keeping so busy. It just seems like it's that new day and age where you're just always on the go.
Dude,
so between social media and email. It's funny, I actually got a book about managing email and not letting email control my day, but I haven't succeeded yet.
I'm the same way. That phone's always beeping and buzzing at me, and there's always something to get out and something to do, and my email list just gets longer and longer every day.
And you know what's the funny part about that? I know I am directly responsible for part of that with both of you.
You are. We're blaming you, Scott. But
you know what? I like talking to both of you, so I'll proudly wear that banner.
Yeah, well, I met you, Josh, through Swagger Bipods, in and through there, and you have a really neat story how you started Swagger Bipods and why you started it. But it sounds like you do a lot of hunting. You're based out of Texas. Is that where your company's based?
Well, the company's based out of Grand Island, Nebraska, but I'm based out of Texas. I'm just about 35 miles north of San Antonio here in the Hill Country.
Oh, gotcha. So you guys get some good hunting down there, huh?
We do. I've got three little girls between the ages of 1.5 and 6 right now. So we've been hunting close to home, and my daughter, she's really been going with me. She was like 2. My wife travels a whole lot, and there were times I used to run Purple Heart Ranch, and my daughter, when she was like 2 years old, was just out there for like 10 days at a time sometimes. And so she kind of grown up in it, and we had a pretty fun season this year. We had a massive acorn drop, and it just it became really hard to hunt because where we are, we have live oaks, and it's kind of like little pockets of trees. So when the deer are really feeding on acorns in this territory, it's not like a big open canopy like you think of in Wisconsin. The deer are kind of in the blind. They're kind of in that pocket of trees hiding. So you're walking around trying to find them browsing on acorns, and they're basically sitting there looking through a pop-up blind at you. So it's a little bit difficult, but my daughter always likes, getting out and moving around. But the middle one started getting really jealous. So she got to come out on a whole lot of hunts, and, we got a lot of meat for the freezer. We didn't get anything that was great to brag about antler wise, but, got several hogs, several does, and 2 mature bucks down. And, we're sitting on a freezer full of meat right now.
Man, good for you. That's raising them right, getting those girls out in the outdoors, and I like how you're still hunting through the trees for those acorns. That sounds like a fun still hunt down and through there, trying to sneak up on those things. But those whitetails are so smart and have such good instincts. I bet they see you before you see them a lot.
And the way it is, you do have to see them before, and it's just hard. There are some high points that we can get up on. But when the deer are on acorns like that, it's tough. It's real tough hunting. And we usually have a frost or something that'll stop them. And they just kept this year, they say these oaks produce every 5 years or so, just sort of vomit more acorns. And that happened this year. And we were still into December dealing with acorns. So, the battle of acorns. And, I know some other people in the country don't know how we have to deal with them, but in Texas, it's, they're almost, the live oaks are like opportunistic cedars. They're basically a desert tree. So when they get rain, they're going to throw out as much seed as they possibly can while they got a chance.
Oh, so you got a capital when you get the rains and it drops down. That's when it's the good hunting out there.
Well, I know it's exactly the opposite. That's when the hunting's really bad.
Oh, gotcha.
But
okay.
we're not going to stop going. Just because those deer, they've got breakfast in bed and they don't have to move. And, really to kill a deer, you got to kill it between point A and point B, point A being, bedding, and point B being either, food or water. And when point A and B change and move to about, 300 yards between each other, it's really tough.
Oh, I see. They're living in the cover, and they don't have to come out of the cover, so you got to go in there and go hunt them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's fun, and, we rattle a lot, too, so that's always fun. The girls love that.
Oh, yeah, I bet that's exciting. And you were telling me, we were talking earlier, and it sounds like your oldest girl got her first harvest this past year?
She did. She's been ready to hunt for a long time, but the thing that just throws her off is the eye relief on the scope. And all the kids' muffs that the hearing muffs you put over them, when she would lay down on the stock, she just would get lost in that eye relief back and forth. And so, I've got a buddy at SIG, and I had gotten one of those SIG Echo Thermal ones, and my daughter was looking at it, and she's like, "Why can't we just use this during the day?" I thought, that's a pretty good idea, because it's got a screen on it, and I can sit behind her and look at where she's aiming and whatnot. And so we went down this March during her kindergarten spring break, and she got her first hog. I think I blacked out. I hardly remember anything after it, Put it right there, and she did a great job. And, of course, FaceTimed mom and little sister immediately. But
that's fun.
Yeah, good for you guys. That's awesome. To be part of those first experiences and introduce them into hunting like that is so neat. And you guys, you have her using that clear scope that you're talking about, or the clear screen, and then you also had her using your product, the Swagger Bipods, right?
Yeah, I think it is something that's really good for kids, because if you think about, like, my daughter, she can't hold the gun and a pair of shooting sticks at the same time. Then she's going to have to move. And, here we were able to get her set up. And she sat there and was able to just track that hog. And we actually had to wait for the other hogs to get away, so she had a clear shot. But she was able to do that and do so comfortably without getting fatigued. And, there's just sitting in a little pop-up blind like that, there's not a whole lot of things you can do. And not only do you think about the fatigue, but the noise. So, she was able to really get on it and use a swagger for what it's made to do and, succeed.
That's where I'm really excited about this. So I've got mine now, and I mounted it to my daughter's rifle to start with, and she runs a 7mm 08. And it's that same thing. Those kids, you don't realize, well, they just don't have that killer instinct yet. They haven't, they can't hold the sticks, or they can't hold the rifle, and the rifle's too heavy, they can't freehand. And so I'm with you. I think it's a huge advantage for all Western hunters out there, but I think it's going to be great for kids because it's mounted to the rifle, but a lot of these bipods that you get are too short, where it's got to be a prone shot or nothing, and it the landscape just doesn't always lend itself to a prone shot, and that is always best in what you want to get, but it seems like more times than not, you have to take a kneeling shot or a sitting shot, and for those kids, it's tough, that coordination, and then to find their target through the scope or through the rifle, where the swagger just allows you to bend and move where you're aiming because you've got these springs in the leg, and so the legs kind of adjust to you. So you can swing left or swing right without moving all your bipod legs and resetting up. I think that's going to be a huge advantage, Josh.
I know. When I first got them, the prototypes, I was like, whoa, this is amazing, because I had been, we almost kind of joke around that swagger was invented by frustrated hunters. And, when you get out in the field, you have a progression of shots you want to take. Prone is the best shot. We know we're going to be locked. We're going to be the most solid and steady. But 9 times out of 10, the field doesn't allow us to do that. And that's why shooting sticks became so popular, because, people knew they were going to be seated or kneeling, like you said. And that's almost, we've had a little bit of a marketing problem trying to explain, hey, this is not just a bipod like you're used to thinking of. It's sort of in between and a shooting stick and a bipod, and then all at the same time, both of them. So being able to go from prone to seated to kneeling that quick and have it attached to your rifle, I think is huge. I know several people, I'm one of them, who's gotten up and not had the second cup of coffee and gone out into the field and gone, man, left my shooting sticks in the truck.
Exactly.
So you only need 2 cups of coffee in the morning, huh? Only 2? Man, I need more than that.
I think you live off coffee, Scott.
You may or may not have been with me when we've made some coffee stops recording here at the office.
That's right. Yep. But
I did some far and chamois hunting in New Zealand, and the other part was, we're climbing, and my shooting sticks are in my backpack, and when it became go time, and it happened so fast, I don't have time to get them out, and I'm trying to sort of create some sort of abstract shooting bench out of my backpack and a rock, and it would have been a whole lot easier to have a swagger on those trips.
Man, I've been there, yeah, and it's such an intelligent design. The way they bend and fold at any angle, they adjust heights, like you're saying. It's way better than any bipod out there, and it's also better than shooting sticks. And shooting sticks are noisy as well as you're trying to carry them, and it's just something else you have to have with you. Where if you had the swagger on your rifle, that's all you need. And the other thing that I thought was cool when I got it, and you guys had this like on the packaging, was so the kneeling shots, the sitting shots, the prone shots. there couldn't be a better design for it because you can adjust the legs and they bend for you, and you can kind of pull the rifle into you or away from you, and there's tension there. But what I really liked on the packaging was shooting a standing shot, how you could put those sticks kind of into your hip or into your leg or into your gut right there, and all of a sudden you've got a rest for a standing shot. And now everybody knows, if you're taking a longer shot, it's got to be prone or sitting. But, for those shots that are, 100 yards and less or 150 yards, you can actually make a really good offhand shot with those sticks where, other bipods, there's no way. They're never long enough, and shooting sticks, even for that matter, you don't have a 6-foot set of shooting sticks, So I thought that was really cool too, Josh.
It is, and I actually got to I actually shot a buck like that this year. I was hoping I'd get to, and I know a guy, Kenneth Lancaster, we work with him. He got to shoot one out of a tree stand in Illinois using that because it came from the wrong side like they usually do. They don't come out where they're told. But my daughter and I, we were set up rattling, facing the draw, and this buck snuck in behind us. And he got close enough to where he winded us, and we hadn't even seen him yet. We're looking the other way. And I just hear him blow at me and run. And I turned, and he's running up the hill. And I just turned, and I said, maybe I can get him. And I brought the legs back in, hooked him into my belt, and he stopped just to look back. And, I was as solid as I could be, 125 yards, and dropped him on the side of the hill right there. It wasn't the perfect shot, but the situation in the field wasn't going to allow me to have perfection. So, it's in combat and hunting, you take the best shot that you're afforded in that situation. And, we got it done and got backstraps on the grill.
Man, good for you. Well, and I like that tip of tucking them in your belt. I hadn't thought about that, but that's it's just gonna secure those legs into you really well, where they've really got a solid place to be.
Well, I always wear like a 511 like web belt, which my wife hates. She freaking hates it. Like she just. It is funny because I actually ran into the guys at 511 at NRA, and they were sort of pushing these cargo pants, and they were saying these are the first wife-approved cargo pants because the cargo pockets were hidden. And it was funny because that's my wife. She, if we're going to go out somewhere, she just sort of looks down and makes sure I'm not wearing cargo pants and my tactical belt, as she calls it. But anyway, that's usually what I have on hunting. And, now I can tell her, well, it's, in case I have to take a standing shot, I've got to have something to anchor my legs into off the bipod.
Right. I've always got to be prepared. You never know when that deer's going to pop out.
You guys are shooting deer on dates, man. That's a whole new level of intensity in marriage. So,
oh man, my wife actually, she does hunt. So she hadn't been able to hunt much. We, with the kids being little, but she loves hunting and fishing, and so we're hoping to get. She hadn't gotten a buck in a couple of years, so this year we're hoping to get her back out.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds like a heck of a date night. I like that. No.
We actually took her when she was pregnant with my youngest. We went out for 2 days. She was 8 months pregnant, and we rattled and rattled, and we never did get anything. But I got some pretty funny pictures of her 8 months pregnant, sitting on the ground rattling with an AR in her lap.
That's good stuff. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, she probably keeps so busy with those 3 young girls. Well, both of you guys running around. I know a family of 3 girls will definitely keep you hopping. But yeah, you have to get her out this year and get her using that swagger and get her a buck.
We're going to do our best.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know I like to get my wife out too, and just share those experiences in the outdoors. And that's where the swagger is really going to be nice too. Like we talk about that killer instinct, it's just going to make it easier for her to get super steady, on an antelope or a deer or whatever we're hunting, to be able to set up. And it makes it easy to set up. It seems like the bipods like already have their angles set on the bipods. And so you're constantly adjusting the leg length, and then you're trying to see the buck through the scope or see your animal through the scope. And there's so much adjusting and tinkering that goes into those things that a lot of times you lose the opportunity, where I like yours where the angles aren't set, where, all of a sudden if your scope's too high, I can just take that leg and scoot it out 2 or 3 inches, and it's going to drop where that rifle's aiming. So it's just going to make it way easier to help, my family and even experienced hunters. It's just going to help them get set up quicker on their target, acquire their target quicker.
And I think, what you're saying too, the other point is that, other than the front of the gun, a lot of people just think, hey, am I stable? Well, there's more to being stable in a good shot than just the front of the gun. I've seen a lot of people miss deer at 100, 125 yards out of a blind, out of the prone because of floating elbow. And I harp on that because, I used to take out a lot of kids whose dads were killed in combat, and a lot of wounded guys who were injured. And they forget that, but you've got to lock that elbow down. And it allows you, if you think about it, a conventional bipod, you're kind of, it's almost like a pivot. And so the rest of your body can become the back end of the gate if you don't lock it down. And so instead of letting the front dictate how you're going to set up, you simply, like you said, spread the legs out, lean back or lean forward to lock the rest of yourself down. And I think I could think of some shooting sticks in a situation where I got set up on the animal runs up the hill. Well, I don't have time to adjust my legs. And I had to move and get into an awkward position to where now I've let my elbow go floating and I missed the shot. And, because I was letting that shooting wrist dictate to me how the rest of my body was going to sit. So I didn't have that flexibility.
Man, you're so right. So locking that back elbow is such an important part to making a good shot. Now, when I've done it, I've always locked my back elbow. Like if I'm shooting prone, I try to get that elbow on the ground or on my pack so it's solid, so my back arm. And with a sitting position, I try to lock it onto my knee. So when you're talking about locking it in, is there a different method you use to lock in your elbow into your body so then you can shoot without having to put your elbow on a pack or something?
Well, if you think where this gets accentuated is on a downhill shot. So if you're set up on a conventional bipod, and you're laying in the prone and you got to shoot downhill, the only way to get that barrel, the only way to get the reticle to go lower is for you to raise the stock of the gun. So now you've got to have the perfect size backpack, jacket / rock, whatever you're finding out in the field to do that. Here, you can lean in to the springs and dictate the angle. I know it's tough to kind of hear that on the radio and think about, what I'm saying, but you just lean in, and then your elbow is you lock it in however is most comfortable to you. You might bring it up under your chin a little bit, wrap it around the stock. In seated kneeling, I always like to make sure my knee is up underneath that trigger hand. But I can lean back and forward and find that stable, that really solid state, with whatever happens in the field. If I need to adjust a little bit, I can, because of that flexibility, I can just kind of move back and forth and find the spot that I need to be in.
Yeah, that uphill and downhill, you're right, leaning those legs. So, yeah, to explain to our audience, like the legs just don't go out to the side of the rifle. They also will go forward and back. And so, and their tension as you lean forward and back. And so if you lean those, if you lean that rifle back into you, it feels like you have tension against you, which I think is what you're talking about, that really solids you up when you got that tension pressing back into you. And then you're locking your elbow or locking that back end of the rifle, either with your knee supporting that or locked into your body, but everything's really tight to you, and so therefore you got a stable rest out front and you got a stable out back, and then you get super solid. So it'll allow guys to make better shots, more accurate shots, and have their crosshairs settle better.
And that's the one of the first tenets of marksmanship is find and maintain a steady rest. And that's what we want. We want to be able to adapt to whatever the terrain is and whatever the situation is, because you maybe get set up on that one bull that's down in the valley, and a bigger bull comes off over to your left, and so we don't want you to have to go up and readjust legs. You make do in that situation, find the steady shot and take your target down and put your tag on it.
Well, and that's the cool thing is it's going to save time in that crunch moment, where you can, like, everything swivels off those legs. So even though you're set up, I mean, you can swivel another 20, 30 degrees to your right without ever moving the legs. Like, everything will just swivel on there. And so it's going to make acquiring your target easier and faster. And it never happens like you want, right? You get set up on a buck, and like you say, a bigger buck comes over the hill, or he comes down rutting a doe, and all of a sudden he drops 30 yards and comes at you, where you've got to readjust. And yeah, with normal shooting sticks or a bipod, you're there messing with quick releases and trying to get your legs set and trying to get reset up. Like, a lot of times you're gonna lose that opportunity at that critter, where yours is going to allow you to just swing over or swing down or pull a leg out and go lower, and you're going to be right on. So that's where I really think your product is going to excel, is by the flexibility that you have with it to be able to acquire your target faster and be on your target better and more of a rock solid hold.
Absolutely. And to track it. I mean, you can track that target and never take your eye out of the scope. Like, we did a little video just showing people, but I got into the prone and did a complete 360 all the way around and never took my eye out of the scope. And, that, I mean, I hope I'm never in a situation where I've got to be in the prone going around 360, but
yeah, no doubt.
that's a bad defensive position, but it just showed, hey, we can get to this point, and then when we get to the point where the legs have reached their, the furthest they can bend, you reset, you lift up slightly, and the legs reset under you. But I love that, because there's so many times I'm in the field where I'm in my glass, and I'm waiting for animals to clear, or the right opportunity, or something to come out from the spot behind the rocks or the cedar that I saw it go in. And so I don't want to have to adjust when that animal comes out and I've got the opportunity to take it. I don't want to be fiddling with an adjustment. I'd rather lean in, lean back, split the legs out, breathe, squeeze the trigger.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Well, like you say, you can track your target. And so you can look through that scope, and if he's walking left, you just swing left looking through your scope the whole time, where other applications trying to get a rest, you have to totally pick up and lose track of that animal in your scope and reset every time he moves over, where with the Swagger, you can, just like you say, you can track him all the way across that hillside. If he goes lower, if he goes higher, you just track him the whole time. So once you're set up, you're ready to shoot that animal. So, like you say, it's just going to make you more efficient with a rifle in your hands. And
there's nothing wrong with being more efficient.
Nothing at all. That's what we're all striving for.
And we have some people look at it and think that it's heavy, and it really isn't. I mean, it's 23 ounces. I think some of the other bipods out there are 17, 18 ounces. I mean, you're talking a few ounces more to have that versatility, and I'll take that any day.
Yeah, versatility and height. Yeah, your bipod has quite a bit of height to it, where you can shoot the kneeling or sitting real comfortable with what you got.
I have one of them on. I got one of those Kimber Mountain Ascents. That's I think it's 4.7 pounds. So I mean, I hardly even notice it on that at all.
Yeah, 23 ounces. You're talking not even quite a pound and a half, but a pound and a half. Yeah, and with that rifle you're talking about, I mean, that's still a sheep rifle with the swagger mounted to it. That's a lightweight rifle.
Mm-hmm. And it's in 30-06, and I mean, I'm not going to lie, it hurts my feelings, but when I shoot it, it's definitely not a gun you want to take to the range, but it's what I want in the mountains, and I love carrying that thing around. But good Lord, it hurts.
I've had a few of those. There are a few light rifles where I'm thinking, man, I'll take an extra pound so that my shoulder's not black and blue after 2 shots.
When we were filming some stuff in South Texas a couple of weeks ago, one of my camera guys, I've worked forever. I used to be the producer of Trophy Hunters TV, but and August is a bigger dude. He played offensive line in college football, and he was kind of like, oh yeah, I don't think it's going to kick that bad. You just, you're little, and all right, man. He shot it like 3 times and came back up and was like, oh, there's no joke. And my wife chose to shoot the 338 Lapua over that. But, the thing is, and I don't ever feel the recoil on it when I'm hunting, because I'm just shooting one, hopefully just once. But God, I love having that in the field.
Well, and the 30-06 is just such a great caliber too. Yeah, and especially in a lightweight rifle like that, yeah, I bet that thing's a shooter. And yeah, it's funny how you never feel the recoil when you're shooting at an animal, even if you had to shoot multiple times. You never feel it. It's like it didn't even kick. And I have this funny story of my daughter, the first deer she harvested, and we out here in Montana have to be just a little bit older, so they hunt with us quite a bit, getting experience, and then they can finally pick up a rifle when they're 10 years old. Well, my daughter, she only weighs about 50 pounds. And so we get her this rifle that fits her really good with a used stock, and it's a 7mm 08 and a light kick to it. And so we go out, and we really had to hunt pretty hard for a deer. And finally, maybe 6-7 days into it, we find this buck, and so we get her set up, and at the time we had shooting sticks or whatever, which was just a pain, and it ruined a lot of opportunities for us. But we had to have a rest on something, and this buck was over the grass, and so you couldn't see it, so it had to be a standing shot there. And so I got her set up, and she got on the buck and made a great shot. She said, "Can I shoot, Dad?" And I said, "Yeah, shoot." And she shoots, and man, that rifle kicked her so hard it about knocked her over backwards off the tripod, and I had to put my arms out to catch her so she didn't go over backwards. And she goes, "Did I hit it?" And I said, "Yeah, you nailed it." He said he dropped right there, and she was jumping up and down, and she looks at me and goes, "The gun didn't even kick." And it about knocked her over backwards, so funny. But yeah, you never do notice the kick, when you're shooting at an animal.
And I think, that brings up a good point with youth. I've found that the kick is, of course, one thing, but it's really the report that makes them a little bit more gun shy than anything. Like I had this 30-30 that I don't know why, but it was the loudest gun on the face of the earth. And, it didn't kick, but my nephew just in his brain, he thought louder sound meant more kick. But, it's, that's why I really like you mentioned the 7/08 and some of those other calibers that, it's not a bad report for kids and not a good kick, but.
Well, yeah,
or not a bad kick, I meant.
Yeah, not a bad kick for him. Yeah, it fits her pretty good, and it's tough trying to find the right caliber. And out here west too, you wanna have a rifle that they can use for deer that's got enough knockdown, but also for elk eventually, and that 7mm 08 just barely, it fits the bill really well for the kids, and the low kick shells for her really help out. Now she can shoot the normal shells, and it's not a big deal as she gets a couple years experience and and some more time on the range and gets, comfortable with the rifle. But yeah, that first one was so funny. About knocked her over backwards, and she looked at me and goes, "Yeah, it didn't even kick." So that was pretty funny. But yeah, it's getting those kids familiar with those rifles, and we do a lot of dry fire practice, and I just think this is going to be a huge asset for her having that swagger. So we're going to start getting used to it for this season, and then we'll do an adventure hunt where we go, for a long weekend, and it'll just be me and her and go out and hunt deer. But yeah, I'm really excited for it and excited for the opportunity to use it. It's really going to help her out.
Well, and I'm actually going to let my daughter's going to go with me. She's not going to be able to hunt, but we're going to go to the Badlands in South Dakota and hunt in November, and she's pretty pumped up about that. She's seen pictures. I did a turkey hunt up there, and she just thinks she's right. That topography is just amazing. It's so cool. But that adventure hunt that you're talking about with your daughter, that kind of stuff, it's just so much fun. They think it's such an adventure,
It is such an adventure for them, and to get to spend that really quality adventure time with Dad, just it means so much to us dads, but it also means so much to them and helps kind of shape their life too. So yeah, it's super important. I can't wait. My younger daughter's coming up, so right now we're 13 and 9. So my youngest daughter gets to hunt next year, and she's gonna be a killer. She started on the rifle a little bit earlier and more practice, and gets to kind of follow in the footsteps of her older sister, so we're super excited for it. And then Scott, you're going to have a new addition coming too, right? You've got one kid and another one on the way. I didn't even know you guys were expecting, but congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thanks. It's kind of funny. My oldest, this sounds weird. I've barely gotten used to the idea of having one, and now I'm saying my oldest because our next one is due in June. But she is daddy's girl, like through and through. Like we haven't gotten to shooting yet, but like we've had all this rain, and I made the mistake of fertilizing our yard before, so I'm mowing every 3 days now. And so she rides in my backpack, and she makes humming noises for the lawnmower while we're mowing the lawn together. And so I'm predicting in the future that she will be joining me on a lot of hunts. And so, guys, I'm taking notes on how to do this right, especially with, little girls. I'm going to have 2 little girls in my house. I never expected it to be that lopsided. So I'm taking notes from both of you on how to do this right and how to have them enjoy the outdoors with me.
I think a key for it is, what I've tried to tell people is when you want them to enjoy that time in the outdoors, you kind of got to take yourself out of the equation. And, especially when they're younger, there were times when, I could see Hattie was just getting frustrated, and, we had a few more minutes of good shooting light, but, it just was getting to that point where I didn't want her to go over the edge and remember not having fun. Yeah. But I would say the number one most important thing that solves almost all your problems is the amount of snacks you bring. I mean, with hunting with kids, it's crazy. But like I have, in my backpack, I have like a big Tupperware container, and whatever you think you'll need, take 10 times that amount. I mean, there's little Tangelo oranges that they can peel. Those are great. But I mean, the amount of calories that my daughter eats on a hunt is insane. But that's what keeps her from not, we're getting less sleep, less naps. So we got to keep the belly full to keep the mood up.
Gotcha.
Man, you're so right, Josh. I love that. You're, yeah. I mean, you've never, if guys could look in my pack when I'm taking my daughter, and I've got fruit snacks and goldfish, and I've got all this stuff that I'd never pack with me. But you're right. You gotta have enough for them at all times. And I really like your point of taking yourself out of the equation. Like I get caught going really hard and pushing really hard, but you got to kind of structure your hunt around them, and so you can't push them too hard or you'll burn them out. And when I was a kid, I hunted with my uncle and my cousin and then my dad. And we hunted western Washington in the thick brush where you got to go beat brush all day long. And so, our dads would walk us around when we were 10, 11, 12, 13, and you're walking all day long. And pretty soon you're not enjoying the hunt for what it is. And I kind of ate it up, and it got in my blood where I enjoyed it. But my cousin was the opposite, where he quit hunting for a lot of years and just didn't enjoy it, and then came back to it. And now he's hunting. He's going to come out here this year to hunt deer. But you're right. You've got to structure those hunts for those kids for their enjoyment, not your enjoyment, And if you lose a few minutes of last shooting light because they're ready to go in, then you do that. You make them have a fun experience on their hunt. And so you really have to structure it that way, it seems.
And I also really try, and I was told this advice, and it's worked great, is, as they get taught, then let them be part of that decision process. So, for instance, like when we're going to go to a tree stand or a blind, I've taught her the wind. I'll show her the wind, and I let her pick where we're going to go hunt. And it's kind of funny because you watch her kind of take the burden of the stress of picking the spot, And there's been more than one time when we're like on our way out, and she's like, no, I don't want to go there. I want to go to, no, I want to go to the apple stand. I want to go to the apple stand. And I do the same thing. I change my mind all the time about where to go. But she's really enjoyed that, and she takes kind of, I think, a little bit more ownership of getting to be part of the decision process of, what we're doing.
Oh, you're so right. Yeah. Including them in the thinking process of what you're doing and why you're doing it is a huge part of it. And that's how they learn. But yeah, you can't just have them follow you around and tell them what to do for everything. Like, you got to include them in it and say, okay, these are our options. And by the way, I'm glad I'm not the only one that changes my mind, where I'm going to go all the time. I'm always second guessing or thinking where I should. But yeah, including them in that thinking process of where we're going to walk or how we're going to move in on this deer, it engages them in the hunt a lot more. It engages their minds in the hunting. So I think that's a really important part, Josh.
I know, and it's where you just see them develop a love for it instead of it being just something. And what I really look forward to is the day when I can sit her in a tree stand, or, I can say, you go do that ridge and I'll go do this one, and letting her do all that, take everything she's learned. It'll be sad because I won't be with her, but, I do look forward to that day when she can go do all that stuff on her own. But I got to train her for it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that'll, it will be, you won't be right with her, but you will be. You've taught her over all the years, and you guys are going to team up in the morning and team up in the evening and maybe team up on a hunt. But yeah, that's like me. I can't wait till she can go on her own and we can kind of split up and meet back, and you can trust her, and trust that you've given her the right knowledge over the years to go hunt on her own. I think that's what we're all striving for. And I think, us taking these kids out and showing them the outdoors and letting them experience fishing and hunting and this, it's a way that us dads can connect with them all the way throughout their life. As they grow older, it's going to be something that we all love to do together, and something, that us dads can get really excited about, and daughters too, and sons as well. But I just think it's a growing relationship that then you're both going to have something that you enjoy as they grow older, which is really neat.
And something.
Yeah, and go ahead, Scott.
I was, and it's funny because it's kind of coming full circle now that I've got little girls, but I was a full-time youth pastor for 9 years, and then I was doing youth ministry underneath supervision for several years before that. One of the best things I ever read, and obviously haven't experienced it yet, but it sounds like, this is exactly what you guys are talking about. Is your goal is not to raise your kids so they'll live in your basement. And so you raise them so that they'll go out and be be people that society values, with solid morals and ethics. And part of that is you're teaching them independence through hunting, and the goal is to see them go off on their own ridge, as hard as that is. I mean, it's it's a struggle for me to watch my daughter run across the room because several months ago I was carrying her everywhere, and I kind of relish that as daddy, being able to carry her. And and it's hard to give up those phases, but moving to the next one, your goal is to see them become independent, functional adults. And it's easy to lose that in our selfish mindsets. But I want to see hunting be a part of my children's growth, where they learn that it's something that is teaching them much more valuable life principles, a work ethic, and going out on your own, and that independence is important.
Yeah, and it's going to give them confidence in all aspects of their life as well. It's like you say, our goal as parents is to make productive members of society, but you also want them to have an enjoyable, meaningful life. And I think hunting teaches this confidence and self-sufficiency, and so I think it teaches some really good life lessons. Oops, I think we just dropped with Josh there, Scott. Let me see if I can call him back. Our call just dropped, so we'll have to. So, okay, well, let's pick up.
I guess what I was saying is just it's hard to protect and conserve something that you don't love. And today we're all in cell phones and TV, and I want my daughters to be protecting the third nature. And, the only way to do that is to teach them to love and time in it. And in college one summer, I worked at this outdoor camp during the summer, and it was basically set up. It was right outside of Charlottesville, Virginia, and kids, their parents still have to work, so from like 8 to 5, kids could go to this camp. And every week, kids would scream and cry and freak out because they were so scared of the woods. I remember one little boy just terrified he was going to get lost in the woods because he'd never seen it. And when I say the woods, I mean, we're talking, this is right off the highway. There's the cafeteria is right there. I mean, it's not, but they were so disconnected from the woods or nature that they feared it.
Man, and that carries over to all aspects in life too. And you don't want kids going through life being fearful, and that's where hunting really builds confidence. When you go into the woods with your dad and you learn how to hunt, but then you can do it on your own, and it gives you self-confidence in who you are for all aspects of life, So yeah, I just think it's a great thing that we share it with these kids, and like you say, we just have to structure the hunts for them, make sure they're having fun. And I have a tendency to go really hard, and so I need to make sure that I really take a step back when I take them, and it's about their experience, not my experience, or going super hard or killing that giant buck. They're just happy being out there in the woods and learning. And so that's the one point that I have to remember for myself when I'm taking them out, is showing them a good time.
Yeah, and sorry about the disconnected from nature too. I guess it goes the other way. I remember, I was telling about my girls like to find bugs, and when Hattie, my oldest, she was like 2, she was in the kitchen and she was laying on the floor, and I came down and she's just kind of talking gibberish and just sort of laying in the floor, like in the kitchen. I'm like, what are you doing, honey? She goes, oh, I'm just playing with this baby lobster. I just kind of walked away and I was like, baby lobster? And I ran back in there, and yep, it was a scorpion. And
oh my gosh, Josh! Wow.
It's all reared up with its tail ready to sting, and she's just playing with it, and she found a baby lobster to play with.
Oh, that's wild. So you guys got some scorpions down there in Texas, then, huh?
Oh man, they're bad. The worst one. My wife and I were laying in bed one night reading, and one fell through the air conditioning vent in between us, right there on our bed.
Oh, that is gnarly, Josh. Oh my gosh. How high did you jump?
Oh, we had to control the panic because, we didn't want to throw it up in the air and then we didn't know where it landed. But right now they're pretty bad. They're hatching in spring and, we find them in the house. The other day, the littlest saw one and big sister came in and literally drug her, hooked her into this carry and just drug her out of the room, in some sort of half chokehold, half, fireman's carry. And, so they know the scorpion alarm, but yeah, they're all over the place.
That's really cool.
Texas, we
saved her little sister's life.
We have, there's just a lot of things that can poke and bite you and sting you here.
Oh man, you guys got some snakes down there too, don't you?
Oh yeah, we've got plenty of snakes.
Gotcha. Well, it's like wherever you are, there's always different challenges. I know I was out last night. We're in our spring bear season, and just saw a great big grizzly boar chasing a grizzly sow out there. So it's like no matter what place you are, you have to deal with something like that, whether it's scorpions and snakes or grizzly bears or whatever it is. There's always challenges out in the woods, but that's kind of the good thing too. It puts things in perspective and puts life in perspective, and it's good to have those challenges in life, I think.
Oh, I agree. I remember when I was in high school, I got to go on this great trip up to the Boundary Waters, Minnesota and Canada right there. And we were just so happy. Oh, it's too cold for snakes and this is awesome. There's no snakes here. Blah, blah, blah. We jumped in the water and that was it. We were up there for 2 weeks, so we had to bathe and just wash off by jumping in that cold water. And one of the guys came out with a leech on his leg. And of course, this was right after Stand By Me came out, with that infamous scene of the guy having the leech in his underpants. And so, of course, our brains were like, oh, leeches. We didn't get in the water again. So I think we almost wanted our snakes back. Keep the leeches.
Leeches are gross. There's no two ways about it. I would rather deal with snakes and scorpions than leeches.
Yeah, those leeches are bad. Well, ticks too. You guys got a lot of ticks. I know our ticks are bad this spring too, where we're finding a few on those. I was doing the podcast the other day and thought I felt one on the back of my neck and kind of had a freak out there. They don't bother me so much anymore. I found enough on me or whatever, but those things are nasty little creatures too.
Well, you bring that up. That is something that really does concern me. The Lyme disease, it's amazing how many people that I know now that have Lyme disease. Now we're going to move hunting leases down further, into South Texas. Ticks won't be that bad there, but where we were in Central Texas, it was bad. And, I had a couple on me, my wife just thinks that's just so gross, but, unfortunately I brought my daughter home with a tick one time, which didn't go over well, but, we're lucky to have not gotten any of the bad bites. But then you've got this new disease out that ticks are carrying. I believe it's the alpha gal. I know my friend's mom got it, but essentially it changes your body's chemistry to where you're allergic to meat. And of course, all health aside, that would just literally crush me on the inside to be allergic to meat. But, it is something that it's just, you spray down, you do everything you can, but tick, if you bump into a tree and the tick falls in your shirt and it goes down and it's carrying Lyme disease, there's not much you can do about it.
Man, that's scary. That Lyme disease is bad stuff, and I haven't even heard of that new disease you're describing. Oh man, that is that is a scary deal. Gosh, I hate those ticks. But it's like we can't let this stuff stop us from going in the woods either. There's challenges that need to be overcome, or there's things that out there in nature that can get you, but you can't let the fear control you where you never go out and enjoy these things, because it is a huge part of our life and something that we really enjoy. But that's a bad deal with those ticks. Well, it sounds like that new lease will be a good deal, if nothing else, a few less bugs.
there's a whole lot more rattlesnakes down there. So you're always trading something off.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't win.
I don't know. I lived in Texas while I went to. Well, I don't know that I'll call it live there. I went to school there, and so I spent about half the year while I was doing school. You know how college schedule works out, where you get 3.5 months for summer, and then you get the month off for Christmas too. So, but going down there and going to friends' places, it was interesting seeing the differences, things that you didn't think of. Like I'd seen these snake boots at Cabela's, but I'd never had any use for them here in Wyoming. And then I understand, I go down there, and the first time you see a water moccasin, you're like, okay, I get it. Like I understand why this is, why there's this there, but it's just a crazy change, where I had friends come up from Texas who came and visited, and they went skiing with me or went camping, and they're like, man, it's kind of cold here at night. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't stay 85 overnight, So it was kind of just funny seeing how that all worked, the differences in mentality.
In the South Texas brush, I mean, it's like a wall of thorns. Like, you don't want to walk through it. And that's why generally there's lanes that are cut through it, the senderos, and I really preach in all the ranches that I've managed to try, like, I preach a front shoulder shot because I don't want to have to track a deer in that. I hate it because 3 weeks later, I'm still going to be oozing out thorns. But the first time when I moved here, I'm from Virginia originally, but my wife was here from here. I was tracking a deer for a guy in South Texas, and that's when I learned that rattlesnakes climb trees. And I'm looking down at a blood trail, and I just look up, and that thing is slithered around a limb, just waiting for something to come under it and drop, I guess. And I was like, all right, front shoulder shots, neck shots, drop that thing right there. No more tracking.
Man, I'd be doing the same thing. That's wild. So it was in the limb just waiting right in front of you, but you were looking down as you were tracking.
And I've seen several more. They like to climb up like in a mesquite tree and get on a limb. And I guess it's just a hunting method to where they can come off real quick and, hit a rabbit or something that's coming underneath them. I don't know, but I don't like it.
Yeah, no thanks on that deal. Oh, man. Yeah, we have some rattlers where I hunt elk, too, and quite a few of them. And, those things, you don't really think about them too much, and you hunt pretty hard, and then all of a sudden you about step on one, and then it kind of gets inside your head where you're looking for them constantly. But, I do not like those things. They make you nervous when you run into a bunch of them, that's for sure.
I stepped on a snake with my daughter this year. It wasn't a rattler, but it was, I got away from the thinking about it, and I'm looking, and I can see a young buck chasing, and we're walking in the dirt road, headed back to the truck, and my daughter just started screaming, and she was like, "A snake's biting you!" And I stepped on this, like, it was just like a little garter snake or something like that. It was, I don't know, 2 feet, 3 feet long, and it was just doing its best to try to get away from me, but I had stepped on it, biting, the toe of my boot. But, I've stepped on a couple. I've never stepped on a big rattler, thank goodness. But I know guys that have, and, they've had snake boots on, luckily.
Oh, yeah, and I don't wear the snake boots, but I have bought a pair of chaps for when I get into that thick country, and we don't have a whole bunch of them. But the worst one is I was hiking up out of a spot, and I was just about ready to put my foot down, and there was one coiled right there. And so instantly you jump about 3 feet in the air, and as I'm in the air and coming down, I can see she's got all her baby rattlers coiled around her. So there's like 100 landmines there, and my foot barely hit the ground, and I was up again, and just high-stepping out of the grass trying to get out of there. But that was the closest caller. The worst one for me is seeing all those baby rattlers coiled around her. Oh man, those things. I don't like snakes either.
There's with snake boots is a lot of times heat, and if you're walking around a whole lot, it's just tough. And I actually found, I think they're called turtle skin or something, but they're actually gaiters. And so I can just wear them with my existing boots. And that to me helps, because it's kind of like snake boots or gaiters aren't going to do you any good if they're sitting back at camp. So I try wearing them a whole lot. They're a lot lighter and, I like them a lot.
Yeah, that's what I think I'm running too. And so those gaiters kind of come over top your shoe and kind of protect your shoe as well, don't they?
Yeah.
Yep. That's a cool deal. I like those too because you're right. They don't do you any good if you're not going to wear them. And my dad has these chaps that come up, dang near to his hips or his waist or whatever, and they're so hot, that I'd never wear those things, so I'd end up getting bit because they were back at camp. But I like those ones that are about knee high, and then they come down and cover your boots, and that way you can wear the boots that you're comfortable with. You don't have to wear, a specialized heavy snake boot that doesn't hike as good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good tip. So, well, yeah, Josh, I've had a really fun time talking to you. I really like your product, the Swagger Bipods. Just real quick, how did you get the idea for Swagger Bipods?
Well, it wasn't me. I wish I had come up with the idea, but the inventor is a gentleman named Tom, and he's a big coyote hunter, and he's got a couple of disabilities that started hindering him more and more as he got older, and just became more restrictive, and he was not going to give up predator hunting. So, he started coming up with and tinkering with these ideas of ways that he could still be independent in the outdoors. And, so the prototype from that to the, what we have today is quite a bit different as we, brought in some engineers and some people to really help. And this isn't it either. I mean, we've got a couple of variations and different things that we'll be bringing out in the future. And I mean, I foresee us having, a whole line of shooting products in the next couple of years.
Man, how cool. And so where can guys find the Swagger Bipods?
Really, I mean, we've been selling them and shipping them since September. So we haven't even been going for a year, but you can find them at a lot of places. I mean, of course, you can get them online from us, but you've got places like Optics Planet, Midway. Cabela's will have them in there soon. I think Brownell's been carrying them since the beginning. But they are at a lot of individual gun stores. That's been a big piece of our puzzle. Is they've sold real well. I tell you, the interesting thing is the gun shops that have them the most are all in the Northwest, and that matches our web traffic. So I always like to look at web traffic and get kind of nerdy here, but if you look at the states, for the people that come to our website, number one state is Texas, and California's number two. I mean, they do it just by sheer volume, but the third and fourth states are Washington and Utah.
Oh, wow.
And, Colorado's not far behind, but, the amount of traffic that comes from Utah and Washington is, I mean, it's a lot. And that kind of matches our dealer bases as well out there.
Man, yeah, that's super interesting. Well, they're starting to catch on out west, and Washington has a big population like California and Utah as well. But I think they're going to catch on all over out here. So guys can look for you in different sporting goods. It looks like you've paired with a bunch of really good companies. And then if they want to purchase one, they can just go on your website, and I'm sure they can access you or somebody there that can answer any questions they have and order it directly from your site.
Absolutely, and there's all kinds of information we've got there, and we created a video page called Shoot with Confidence TV, shootwithconfidencetv.com, that has not only like little hunting short films, but a lot of like product tips and shooting tips, and even some coyote hunts. So if you want to get some more information, you can go actually see it in the go through the motions and see it on hunts.
Oh wow. I watched a few of those. Super informative and then really well done. And I learned a lot about your product and how to use your product better through watching those. And where'd you say people can find that again, Josh?
It's shootwithconfidencetv.com. There's also a link on our website at swaggerbipods.com too. The same videos are also available on our YouTube page. And if you have a Roku, I know this is kind of different, but we have made our own Roku channel. So it's the same Shoot with Confidence TV, but Roku is becoming such an easy way to access the stuff I want to watch. And, if you want to go there, you can go check it out there too.
For sure. Well, yeah, I've really enjoyed talking to you. You sure got a great product out there, and thanks for the support with Eastmans and the podcast. We appreciate it, and I can't wait to start putting this thing to good use and send you some pictures, some photos of some of the animals that we harvest out here.
Well, that's fantastic. I had a great time talking to y'all as well, and send us some pictures when your daughter starts getting the bipod in the field.
Oh, I will for sure. Yep. No, we'll take some good photos for you and send them your way. So really nice to meet you, Josh. Let's keep in touch and we'll talk again.
Sounds good. Have a good day.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Another episode in the books. Josh Kinser and Swagger Bipods. Josh is just a great guy. I've really had a good time getting to know him. And then Swagger Bipods is such a great company, just a huge asset for Western hunting. Being able to get bench rest accuracy, with a bipod that mounts to your gun. So really pumped on trying one of those out this season. I know it's really going to help my family, my daughter, my wife, help them with shooting off a stable platform. So go check them out at Swagger Bipods. Again, Eastmans is putting on that promo code. $20 will get you both magazines. Punch in the promo code Elevated617 on the Eastmans Hunting Journal website, and should be all good to go and set up from there. With that, just busy here, busy with work and busy with training. Running has been going really good. I've been getting in a lot of quality runs day in, day out, and shooting's really good. I got those bows tuned up and ripping and pretty much ready to go hunt. I leave August 4th for Alaska. Got my plane tickets booked, and so psyched to get up there and start off my season right. And then still got a few tags coming in. Still hoping for Montana antelope tag with a bow, so that should be a gimme. I say that, but you never know until you got the tag in your hands, and maybe picking up another leftover tag. But I got a really full season plan, so just super stoked. Like I say, training's going good. Everything's going good. I'm going out on a training hike this weekend. It's a big group hike with a bunch of guys where we're going to go do nearly 40 miles in 24 hours of mountain terrain. So that should be some good training. And then I just got to get out for some scouting here. These weekends just keep passing me by, and they got the Big Sky shoot. What's that called? The Total Archery Challenge up at Big Sky, Montana. So I really need to make it up there. So I need to make some quality scouting. This weekend is the hike with all the guys, and should be fun to get to the mountains and sleep. So that's good training in itself. And then the weekend after that, I'm going to make a good 3-dayer into that spot in Idaho that I'm going to hunt and check that out. And then from there, Total Archery Challenge. Maybe one more weekend of scouting after that. I'd like to get out for some elk scouting too. So I don't know. I got to really sit down on a calendar and plan out my weekends, but it's pretty much full tilt from now till the end of November, the end of hunting season, and then try to get a coos deer hunt on top of that in January. So busy schedule, but this is the fun time of year. So just need to check a couple more of these jobs off my list and check out for the woods for a while. So super pumped. Guys, keep putting in the work. As always, just appreciate all the support. The reviews on iTunes, the downloads and listens and plays on the podcast, subscribing to the podcast, the social media, the Facebook and the Instagram. It's overwhelming. So I just can't thank you guys enough, and just want to keep putting out quality content that helps you out west being successful, self-guided public land. So with that, let's wrap this thing up, call it an episode, and I'll check in with you guys next week.